Hello, hello, my stamping friends. I am so thankful that you have joined in with us today to see some fun crafting and some creating and using some of the beautiful new projects and products that we have. I'm Pam Jorgensen. I can be found at Stamping in My PJs. Right now, my blog, there's not anything out there. It's being updated and revamped and revised. But you can always reach out. I'll put my information in the link below, and you can always reach out to me if you have questions. Now, this is my Stamp Club card for this month, one of them. I just love this card. This is like a diamond pop-up card, I would guess that you would say. So stay with me, and I'm going to show you another version at the end. I'll share some tricks and tips I learned as I was stamping this. And for my Stamp Clubbers, you are going to get everything that you need other than the sentiments to stamp and create. But you'll be able to do this in your home. If you want to subscribe, down below, click the bell and subscribe so you get a chance to hear or get notified every time that I post a video. So let's see how to make this beautiful card and what I use to make it. Oh my gosh, I just love this card. So I used the Friendly Hello stamp set. Now this is, because it's celebration time, and don't forget in the South Pacific. So I'm in the South Pacific market. I am in Australia. The Friendly Hello is one of our Stampin' Up products that we provide for free. Stampin' Up gives us for free. Now this is a double one because for every $180 in order, you get this beautiful stamp set and this stunning designer series paper, which I have brought in. I wish we had it to buy all the time. It is so, so pretty. So let's have a look at that really quick. So here you can see, here is this piece of Coastal Cabana paper that I made my card from. Stampin' Up has done such a great job of giving us patterns on one side, and then the opposite side is different. Now this one has the granny apple green. It's a little bit more bright and bold and vivid, but wait till you see the others. I like this too because I love granny apple green. So these three patterns are very similar. They're not the same, but they're very similar. We have the Highland Heather and then the Pale Papaya. Okay, and then when you flip them over, we had the granny apple green. Look at this one. Whoops. We have just a speckle, a nice speckly one. Let me get that up there. Beautiful. On this side, we have these beautiful, just a pale papaya pattern, which is gorgeous. Oh, and I love this one. I almost made a card out of this one. So this is just white flowers, but look at this. So these flower images and the birds can actually be stamped with the stamp set as well. And if you look at the card that I showed you, let me pop that open. See that little bird right there? And the flowers and the leaves? That I simply fussy cut, and it was so, so simple out one of these designs. And that's how I got that bird on the front. So very, very simple. So once again, look at this. I love this pattern. And then look at this nice bold granny apple. Oh, just so pretty. And then on the opposite side is this beautiful striped pattern, which would be cute on boxes, a baby card. I could see that as a baby card. So cute. Okay, so let's see what we did. Now I want to show you a couple things. On this one, the Friendly Hello, I have actually cut apart the words hello and friend. Now you may or may not be able to see them here because of course they're clear. But I've cut those apart, and then because they have a little tab, I guess, down here, I'm able to hook those back together if I wanted to stamp the whole sentiment. So don't be afraid to cut apart your photopolymer stamps if you desire. Just need to make sure that you don't actually cut any of the actual image apart. This card is one of those simple, fast cards. It looks really hard, but it's not. Now this is bigger than your, excuse me, than a card that fits into a regular envelope. So you will need to buy an A 6 envelope, or like a half of a manila sized envelope to go into your project. Now, it looks like there's a lot of pieces here, and there are. But if you notice, let me bring the sample back in, I have lots of layers. So if you didn't want as many pieces, here we have our basic black, our Coastal Cabana, and a piece of Designer Series paper. If you didn't want as many layers, you could just go basic black and Designer Series paper, right? So make it easy, make it what works for you. So let's see what all we have. I'm gonna actually tip this pile upside down, be a little bit easier. And I'm gonna have to look at my directions. Now, if you're part of Stamp Club, you are going to get a written set of directions. If you are interested in joining my Stamp Club and getting these supplies in the post, other than the stamped images, then give me a message and a shout out, and I'll be glad to share that information with you. So this particular piece of cardstock is almost a whole sheet. Okay, so it's actually quite big. It's 7 inches across, 10 inches down. We scored it at 2.5 and 5. And basically what that is scoring that in half, or you could fold it and then that folds back. So it's just a regular Z-fold type of card, right? Now we also have a piece of basic black. So this is our matte piece. Obviously it's going to fit in that scored section that we have right there. And this one is 4 3/4 of an inch by 6 3/4. Okay. Now I am giving my measurements in imperial because that's how I work best. But on your Stamp Club sheet, there are all the metric measurements as well. Okay, so we have that. Then you are going to have 2 pieces of the same color. So here we got our basic black again. These 2 are going to be 2 1/4 inch, right, by 6 3/4 of an inch. So they're the same length as this one, just a little skinnier so that they fit in there. Then you are going to have a piece of Designer Series paper and a piece of basic white. Both of these are 2 inches by 6 1/4 because they fit right in there. I'm just having a look. Just make sure make sure I gave you the right dimension. Okay. All right. Now we're going to come back to our next piece of Designer Series paper. So we needed this one to mat as well. This is 4.5 by 6.5. So you can see how the mats are starting to come together, right? So let me set that one over here. Now we also have now I have 2 of each of these. Let me get those picked up. And you're going to note that you have 1 square that's bigger than, you can't really see this. This size is bigger than that size, okay? So you're going to have 2 of these. Now these 2 are 2.5 by 2.5. Okay, so you need 2 of those. You need 2 of these that are 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. And then you need 2 pieces of Designer Series paper that are 2 by 2. Okay, and you'll see that they all mat up and look really nice together. Okay, so just like that. So there's your pieces. Now you will also have 1 piece. Now this one is 3 inches by 3 inches. And for this one, I only decided to have the piece of Designer Series paper on there. So that's 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. All right, I have a scrap of basic black. I have a piece of vellum. Now you would not have to use this. I felt I needed to anchor what I was, that I needed to have something to anchor my bird on. So I just cut a little piece. It's probably about 2.5 by 2.5, and I have a scrap of basic white. Now this is the mechanism that we're going to use. I'm going to tell you the size after we get everything put together, and I'm going to when we go to do that. So let's do some adhering, and I will, let me get some of this out of the way. There's lots of pieces. Okay, so let's do some adhering of our layers. So you can see I've gone ahead and adhered most of my layers together. I did go ahead and adhere this big one on the inside, and I'm going to go ahead and burnish my cardstock really well. And I'm actually going to burnish it going both ways, just so that it makes it a little bit easier for the card to open and pop up. All right. So once you have that done, and if you don't have a bone folder, just I sometimes use if I'm lazy, I use one of my blocks, but the Stampin' Up! Bone folders are awesome. Now, when you have this done, we are going to stick this on the front. So let's do that really quick. Believe it or not, you need to have all of this done first. You could probably even do your stamping. We're gonna do our stamping next, but you could have probably even done our stamping prior to this, but that's all right. Okay, so that's in place. Okay, so we have our card base, we have our big layer, and we have our two smaller layers. So let's set that aside for a minute and bring back in what we have left. So you should have your black and white piece left. Now, when we stamp on this, what I have learned is that you need to stamp really, really close to the top of your project. Now I need to grab a ink pad. Okay, so what I have learned is that when we stamp, we need to stamp fairly close to the top of our project with them. Otherwise, what happens is when you open your project, because we're going to have this insert piece, it has to stamp around it. So let's do some stamping. Let's see if I can get this straight. Now for this one, what did I choose? You have my love and support. So let's ink that up. Let's see how straight I can get that, looking over the camera. I probably should have had my mat to stamp on, but that's okay. Let's see how it goes. And if not, two sides to every single piece of, actually I might even stamp it upside down because I can see better down here. See how close I'm getting to the top? See if that's straight. I might try it again. Beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and add some flowers. I'm going to add my decorations here as well. So I'm just going to grab a scrap. I have a scrap drawer right here. I'm going to grab some scraps only because I want to stamp off. So let's see what we can get. And get that there. And I'm going to come down here and try to get the whole flower. And let's come down here. Alrighty. I'm all about quick, fast, easy stamping. And while this is here, let's give it a little bit of color. So I have grabbed in some of my blends. You can use whatever colors you have. I'm using the Pale Papaya, light and dark. So here's how I color. So for this one, I'm actually using the bullet end. I'm just going to drag that over my flower. And then I'm just going to come in with the dark, go in the center, and just hit out where Stampin' Up! Has given us some marks, and leave it like that. And that is how fast I'm going to color. Okay, so nothing really hard. If you know me, I'm not a huge colorer, but the blends sure make it a lot easier. And I don't mind coloring with the blends because no matter what I do, it looks good. Okay. And I do leave white on the tips because that automatically highlights your flowers. So when I stamp, I like to do things that make people think, oh, that project was so hard. And in actuality, it was so easy. Okay, don't get me wrong. I do hard projects once in a while, but not often. Now I'm just going to come in with my Granny Apple Green. And when I color these leaves, I'm leaving white on one side, okay, if I can. I don't spend a lot of time, remember? And by leaving a little bit of white showing on these leaves, it adds highlights. Now, these leaves are quite small, so you may not get a whole lot of emptiness, but just even a little. So I'll show you. I'm not sure. Let's see. I can get it to, there we go. Okay, so see how those leaves right there aren't always, they have a little bit of white. All right, so let's go ahead and adhere this down on. Okay, because of this card, we are going to need to do some measuring for our insert. So on this score line right here, we are going to measure 2 inches down from the top. So I just put my ruler at the 2-inch and just make a little tiny pencil mark. And we're going to do the same thing from the bottom, okay? And we need to do this so that we know where to put our little pop-up mechanism. We know that way it's in the middle, okay? You don't have to have it in the middle, but that's how we have a gauge for the middle. Now, this piece of paper is 3 by 4 inches, and I have scored it across the 4-inch side at 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's go like that, 1, 2, and 3. Now, the secret to this is, there's a couple secrets actually, and I'm going to show you how to put your measurements on, is that you need to use your tear tape. So you need something strong, okay? So we are going to put tear tape, and I'm probably going to use 2 pieces, one right at each side, like that. And when we do this at club, I just ripped off tear tape for everyone, and so we wrapped up the extra back on the roll, so it's a little crazy, but that's all right. Okay, here we go. So that's a great tip. You can just rewrap if you've overwrapped. If you have too long of a piece, just put it back on your roll until next time. We're gonna need that again anyway. So what we're going to do is I'm going to grab my Take a Pick tool, and I actually like to just give that tear tape a little bit of a burnish on there. And I'm going to work on one side. So I take my Take a Pick tool with the flat edge, slide it under, and just lift, and it pulls that off lickety split. Okay, so that's your extra tip for the day. How slick is that? Okay, we're only going to take off one side at this point. Let's bring our card back in. So here are our 2 marks. Now they're going to be hard for you to see, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to center this piece of cardstock down inside those 2 marks. So you want the open end. So here's the side that I've removed the tape. Actually, we'll do it this way. It's taped up. It doesn't matter which way you do it. I'm going to center that between those 2 marks right up to that score line. Just like that. Whoops. It's called tear tape, and it is sticky for a reason. And I'm just going to shut the door. Whoops, that might have been, I need to go this way. Might have slipped a little bit. Okay, I'm just gonna shut the door. And now you have something that looks like that. See that? Okay, so it's kind of counterintuitive to what you think it should be. I'm gonna come in and erase those 2 pencil marks I made. It's just a little bit easier if you do it now. Okay. Now I'm going to pull up these other 2 tear tape protective covers. I don't know what I do without my take a pick tool. It's the best thing ever. I'm just gonna hold that in place, pick up the back of my card now, and just shut the door. And when that's done, you now have that little pop-up element on the inside, right? Okay, so let's finish this card. You have your 2 smalls and your big. Now, your big, we're gonna have to do some trimming. Your small, what we do is we look at the front of our card and we're going to line it up. We're going to line it up with this edge right here. When you do that, you can do this a couple ways. I like to take a little bit of a pencil mark, so I'm going to eyeball it, and I'm going to take my pencil, and you can either make a little tick mark on the back, because we want no adhesive to go on the right side of this diamond, right? Or alternatively, you can look and see if you have paper that goes a certain way, which way do you want it to go? So I have a little bird here, so I'm gonna go this way. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that, flip it over, and I'm just going to take my pencil, and I'm just going to go from point to point, just like that. Okay, I went from point to point. So I know I cannot get any glue on this half, right? I'm gonna do the same thing with this one. This one doesn't matter, so I'm just going to draw it. Get that one out of the way. All right, let's add some glue. So, which way did I say? I'm gonna do this one. So I'm gonna put it on this side. So you need to be fairly careful. You don't want any glue oozing out. And you certainly don't want any glue on the inside of your project. Okay. So you can actually even just pull it out like this. You can't go flat with it because you have that element on the inside, which does not fold all the way flat. You can do it this way. So when I do this, I'm lining that up with that scored mark. Come on, get over there. There we go. It's really quite warm here today, so everything's drying fairly quick on me. There we go. And I'm just gonna give that a press, okay? And you can see the pencil mark is not gonna show, and I have no glue over on that side. And there's the first part of our diamond. When you put the second one on, you're gonna see that you barely hit that other diamond, and that's okay. Even if you end up having a little bit of a space, that's okay as well. If it bothers you, you can hide it with an element. You could hide it with a gem. You could stamp something and punch it out. Like, just use your creativity, but it doesn't worry me. This one actually, it fits fairly tight. There we go. Now I'm just going to turn it over and give everything a good push. All right. So we have the first 2 pieces done. So you're going to come to your next piece. Now you can do it a couple different ways. You could cut this beforehand and cut each layer separately, but I actually think it works better if you just adhere it together. You open your project. You could glue it like this, but it's actually going to look a little bit nicer if you trimmed that off. So I know I want it to go, let's see, I'm just looking at my paper. Probably want it to go like this. So I'm going to cut this edge off. So I'm just going to grab my trimmer. All right, so we've looked at that. We know which way we want our paper to go. So I'm gonna flip this over, and I'm actually going to flip it over so that I don't, when I cut, it cuts nicely. It's not trying to get hung up on those other layers. So I am going to switch that over. I know that I need to cut this at 3/4 of an inch, which is this line right here, okay? Let me zoom in a little bit. So 3/4 of an inch is right here. So I'm going to actually come down to this one, okay? And I'm just gonna kind of hold it there with my pencil. And I'm going to line up, let me just get it lined up and then I'll point it out what I did. Okay, so this point is at the 3/4 of an inch mark. And then I just randomly chose a line, and this one actually happens to be at 1.5 inches. And I've made sure that this point is lined up to it and this one. Then I can close my trimmer and I can trim. Yep, and it cut off that little bit. So now when I come in, that is gonna go nice and flat against the inside of my project. See that? Just like that. So here's where you want to take your pencil again and just make a little mark where your glue can go. Okay, so I know I've marked there and there, and I know my glue can go inside of that area without it showing. And I'm going to center it on my little pop-up bit so the blue behind it is centered. And then I'm just going to shut the door and push that in place. Oops, it slid a little bit, so I need to get that up there a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so there's our pop-up piece. And now you decorate. I felt like this didn't need a whole lot of decoration because your paper is just so pretty. So I have taken the little bird. I've already pre-colored him, but I'm going to show you a little trick for that bird. Let me grab my scrap out again. Whoops, this is a different one. In this stamp set, you also get this little tiny image that looks like, oh, I actually forgot to stamp it. Oh my goodness, silly me, silly me. But when you stamp this, you can actually put some little speckles on your bird. So what I would tell you to do is stamp off once to see how dark it is, and stamp it again and see if that's light enough. Now I want it fairly light. You could have it dark if you wanted. So I'm going to stamp off once, and I am just going to add some little speckles on the bottom of my bird. Look how cute that is, right? Now I'm going to, let's see if I can add some speckles because I didn't do it on this and I forgot, and it just enhances it so much. I might have to, let me post this Post-it note off. This is quite normal too. I always forget to do things until it's already put together. So I just don't want any ink to go where. See how that just adds that little bit of oomph to our project? But what I was going to say about this one is this one actually fits really nicely around these flower images. It just naturally flows. That's how they've designed it. I don't know if it's on purpose, but it works. It works for me. And this one won't need one down here at the bottom. See how that just flows around that? I might add just a couple more at the bottom. And there we have it. Okay, so to pop up, to add your decorations, what you'll want to do is you will want to close your card. Let me go back out. There we go. You will want to close your card and stick in your element that you want peeking out or to show. It all depends on what you use, how big that is, how how much you want it to stick out. Now I am going to use dimensionals. So what you need to look at then is where can you put dimensionals underneath that in order for it to show. So I know I can put a couple on his body, right? So I'm going to keep turning that and having a check, and I'm going to put one under this purple flower. Once again, we do not want any of these dimensionals to poke out and show on anything that might grab something else. There we go. So that's how that is going to, whoops, I must have bent that. Okay, so if that is, you can always put a glue dot underneath there if you need to. Okay, so to finish that then, I'm just going to show you the one I did earlier. Is I went ahead and I embossed the word friend. Remember I said I cut that stamp in half? Well, that's why I wanted to stamp that, or I wanted to have these two separate images. And that's what I did. Embossed that in white on black, and then I popped that up as well. So two very different cards, even though they're made with exactly the same. I like the brown bird, I think, a little bit better. He shows up a little bit better against the blue, but still very cute. So let me show you the other one. I promised you one more. So this was one I did with the fresh freesia. And remember I said I had the little bird. So I just fussy cut around him. And then I just popped up hello. Now that's out of a different stamp set, so that's okay. And just thinking of you. But in saying that, you do need to be careful that you do not stamp this piece down lower. Now this is one that fits into a regular Stampin' Up! Sized envelope for A4 cards. So for my stamp clubbers, you have the measurements for this on your sheet. So two simple, fun cards. Lots of things that look hard, but that are really, really simple. My kind of stamping. Thank you for popping in and stamping with me today. I hope that you hit the subscribe button below. And if you have questions, let me know. Thanks for stamping with me, you guys. Have a great day.